core aim of the digital verification system we're legislating for is to enable people to prove who they are and to provide information about themselves. And the reason why this system of digital identity can be trusted with our data, our safety, and our personal and economic lives is because the information it contains comes from authoritative sources. It draws on information in my passport or my driving license, which itself comes from information on my birth certificate, which itself is a certified copy of the entry on the birth register, which before that came from the information recorded at the hospital where I was born. Actually, I was born at home, but nevertheless, the issue remains true. But if the chain of integrity of data is broken, then the system of digital verification is no longer trustworthy. And the bill contains provision to secure the reliability of digital verification services by means of a carefully constructed framework, a register of providers, an information gateway, and a trust mark. But there is a flaw, which my noble friend has referred to, and it's been pointed out by the human rights charity Sex Matters. The digital verification system, which has recently been published in its Gamma edition after several years of development, assumes that government sources are reliable and accurate. But when it comes to the attribute of sex, whether someone is male or female, we know that these records are not accurate or reliable. Now, here, my lords, I'm going to descend into controversy. I believe that sex is an intrinsic feature of every person, which is determined at conception and observed at birth. I don't believe it can change over a person's lifetime. My digital record shows that I am male. This also appears on the face of my passport, and it's encoded into my driver's license. But neither the passport office nor the driving license authority can reliably attest that I really am male. This is because over the past decades, these agencies have allowed people to change their recorded sex. This practice goes back at least as far as the 1950s. We know, for example, from the case of Corbett and Corbett, that in 1961, at the request of Arthur Corbett, the 3rd Baron Roe-Allen, the Passport Office provided a female passport to a young man who had changed his name to April Ashley and was seeking to live as a woman. Change to these official government records was done without legislation as a humanitarian accommodation to address the difficulty for someone who wanted to live and travel with documentation which did not appear to match with their sex or their way of life. It was done informally for what at the time was thought to be a tiny number of people. But since then, thousands of records have been altered. Recent Freedom of Information requests showed over the past 5 years at least 3,188 passport sex records have been changed to show a sex different from that in the birth certificate. And over the past 6 years, at least 15,481 driving license sex records have been changed to show a different sex. This can be done on request, sometimes but not always with a doctor's note stating that the person wishes to live as if they were the opposite sex permanently. The organisation Sex Matters has told me that some people have one sex on their passport and another on their driver's licence. My lords, as I said at second reading, we do not want to have biological males working in women's rape crisis centres. We do not want biological males being sent to female prisons. And yet, if we do not have accurate records, how can we prevent that? Changing government records to enable people who identify as transgender to live, work and travel as a different gender was a humane solution to an issue but it has rendered those records inaccurate. A digital solution would keep everyone's personal information accurate, but allow anyone to keep any piece of personal information private in any particular situation or transaction, as I can do with my name and date of birth using an age verification app. That's the first amendment, Amendment 34. It requires the Secretary of State to ensure that the DVS system assess whether key public authorities, such as the Passport Office, can reliably ascertain and verify the key facts of each individual's date of birth, place of birth, and their sex. Amendment 48 makes an amendment to Clause 45, which would create a quality assurance requirement for public authorities to ensure that they do not provide information about an individual via the information gateway that does not meet the basic expectation of integrity. That is, if it is accurate, at least at the time that it was recorded, has not been tampered with, and is accompanied by clear metadata that describe the data so that its meaning cannot be misconstrued. These are the same requirements that private sector providers certified under the trust framework are required to meet. And it seems right that public bodies should give a similar level of assurance of the integrity of the data they provide. As I've just said, public bodies have been modifying data, I believe with the best of intentions, but nonetheless causing a problem for data integrity. This amendment requires not only that public bodies provide accurate data, but that it is supported by clear metadata.